remember where the heart is.
The Hound asks Arya one question as he's dying at the bottom of a ravine. You remember where the heart is? She nods. He's not making conversation. He's asking her to kill him, to drive needle between his ribs and end it. That question, you remember where the heart is a callback to something he taught her on the road. How to kill a man quickly. Where to put the blade so it slides past the bone and into the organ. It was a lesson in mercy, taught by a man who had never shown any, and in his final moments, broken and bleeding at the base of a cliff after the worst fight of his life, the Hound is asking his student to use the lesson on him, and Arya says nothing. She just looks at him, and then she takes his money and walks away. Now, what happens next is one of the cruelest and most compassionate things Arya does in the entire show, and it's both at the same time. The Hound has been on her kill list since the first season, since he rode down Micah, the butcher's boy, on the King's Road and killed a child who was begging for his life. Arya has recited his name every night before sleep. She has promised herself that Sandor Clegane will die by her hand, and here he is, dying, begging, and she won't do it. I mean, think about why. The Hound tries everything to provoke her into the killing blow. He reminds her about Micah. He says the boy was begging for mercy. Please, sir, please don't kill me. And that the blood stank up his saddle for weeks. When that doesn't work, he goes darker. He says he should have taken Sansa the night of the Blackwater. He says the most vile thing he can think of, trying to make Arya hate him enough to end it. And she doesn't flinch. She doesn't draw her sword. She doesn't even change her expression. She just stares at him with those flat, grey, stark eyes and walks away without a word. So why? Why doesn't she kill him? The fandom has debated this for years, and the answer most people land on is that Arya doesn't refuse because she's merciful. She refuses because she's not. Killing the Hound would be a mercy. It would end his pain, give him a clean death. And Arya, who watched her father beheaded, who saw her brother's corpse paraded with a wolf's head sewn onto it, who has been building a kill list since she was a child. Arya has learned that sometimes the cruelest thing you can do to someone is let them live. She removes him from her list, not by crossing him off, but by denying him the one thing he wants. The thing is, she's wrong, not about leaving him. That part is instinct, and it's the right call, but she's wrong about what happens next. She assumes he'll die. Everyone assumes he'll die. The Hound assumes he'll die. And then a man named Ray finds him. Well, here's where the show does something it almost never does. It brings a man back from the dead without magic. No red priests, no Lord of Light. Just a former soldier turned Septon who happens to find a massive, broken body on the ground and decides it's worth saving. Ray tells the Hound later that he thought he was dead, that any normal man would have been dead from those wounds. But the Hound wasn't dead. And Ray, who had spent his own life as a soldier, killing people before finding something better, couldn't walk past a breathing body and leave it to rot. Look, Brother Ray is one of the most important characters in the entire show, and he's only in one episode. Ian McShane plays him for a single hour of television, and in that hour, he does something that Joffrey, Cersei, Tywin, and 8 seasons of Kings and Queens never managed. He almost changes the Hound. Almost. And the almost is what makes it devastating, right? Because Ray isn't preaching from a pulpit. He's preaching from experience. He tells his congregation, a small community of villagers building a sept in the Riverlands, about his past. He was a soldier. He followed orders without question. He killed people because he was told to. And one day, he killed a boy in front of the boy's mother, and the sound she made broke something inside him that never healed. He carries that sound with him every day. He found the gods, or at least, he found the idea that doing good might balance the scales of doing evil. And he built a life around that idea. Literally, he's building a sept with his own hands, board by board, with the help of people who have nothing. You know, the conversations between Ray and the Hound are among the finest writing in the entire series, and it's remarkable how much ground they cover in a single episode. Ray asks, "What kept you going all those years?" The Hound answers, "Hate. And Ray shakes his head. "No," he says, "there's a reason you're still here." And the Hound, with perfect deadpan bitterness, "Aye, there's a reason. I'm a big fucker and I'm tough to kill." Ray laughs, and then he says the line that defines the entire scene. "The gods aren't done with you yet." You see, what Ray understands, and what the Hound doesn't, not yet, is that survival isn't an accident. The Hound survived the Blackwater. He survived Brienne. He survived being left to die by the one person who might have given him a clean end. And Ray sees in him what the audience has seen all along, a man who has been doing the right thing for years while insisting he's still the monster. The Hound saved Sansa from the mob in King's Landing. He protected Arya across half of Westeros. He fought Brienne not because he wanted a fight, but because he genuinely believed he was the safest option for Arya, and he was right. Every act of kindness the Hound has ever performed, he's done while calling himself a dog. Ray is the first person who tells him he doesn't have to be one anymore. And yet, Ray's philosophy is simple.
Violence is a disease. You don't cure a disease by spreading it to more people.
The Hound counters, "You don't cure it by dying either." And that exchange, those two lines, is the entire thesis of the Hound's arc compressed into a single beat. Violence is a disease, and the Hound has been infected his whole life since his brother held his face to the coals when he was a child. The question isn't whether the Hound can stop being violent. The question is whether the world will let him. Basically, the answer is no. The Brotherhood without banners shows up. 3 riders who look at this peaceful community of unarmed villagers and see easy pickings. The Hound recognizes them immediately. He warns Ray, "Arm your people, prepare for a fight, these men will come back." And Ray refuses. Violence is a disease. He will not spread it. He will not pick up a sword. He will trust that doing good is enough. The Hound goes into the woods to chop lumber. He hears screaming. He runs back, and every single person in the community is dead. The villagers are slaughtered on the ground. Ray is hanging from the rafters of his own unfinished sept, the building he was constructing with his bare hands as a monument to the idea that people can change. The Brotherhood didn't just kill him, they hanged him inside his own proof that goodness exists. The Hound stands in front of Ray's body, and then he picks up an axe. Actually, that moment, picking up the axe, is the most important beat in the Hound's entire arc. Because Ray was winning, he was actually getting through. The Hound was chopping wood, building a sept, living peacefully among people who needed help. For the first time in his life, Sandor Clegane was doing something that wasn't about killing or surviving or serving a master. He was healing, and the world murdered the man who was healing him and hung the body where the Hound would find it. Again, Ray's lessons don't die with him. They just take longer to land.
You come with me, you die here.
When the Hound tells Arya to leave before Cleganebowl, when he finds her in the crumbling Red Keep and says, "You come with me, you die here," he's doing exactly what Ray did. He's telling someone that violence is a disease and she shouldn't catch it. He's telling her to choose life instead of revenge. And Arya hears him. She turns around. She calls him Sandor, his real name, not the Hound, not a title, not a weapon, just the man. And she says, "Thank you." Now, here's the detail that connects everything and makes the Hound's arc one of the most complete in the show. The question he asks Arya as he's dying, "You remember where the heart is a killing lesson. He taught a child how to end a life with one thrust, and that lesson lives inside Arya for 4 more seasons, dormant, waiting, like a seed planted in winter, until the Night King walks into the Godswood and Arya drives a blade into his chest, the exact spot, the heart. The Hound's lesson, delivered in a dusty ravine while he was bleeding to death, is the knowledge that saves the world. The thing is, the Hound never knows this. He dies in King's Landing, throwing himself and his brother off a burning staircase, never learning that the girl he taught to find the heart used that lesson to kill the greatest threat the world had ever seen. Ray never knows either. He dies in the Riverlands with a rope around his neck, never learning that the broken man he nursed back to life would one day tell a girl to choose living over killing, and she'd listen. Technically, the Hound dies the same way he's always feared, in fire. He walks into it willingly, dragging his brother down with him. And that's Ray's final lesson, even though Ray isn't there to see it. The Hound doesn't die running. He doesn't die serving a king. He dies choosing. He chooses the fire. He chooses to end his brother. He chooses the one fight that was always his and nobody else's. And then he chooses to fall. That's not a disease spreading. That's a cure, a violent, terrible, burning cure, but the only one this world was ever going to offer him. So the next time you watch the Hound lying at the bottom of that ravine, asking a little girl if she remembers where the heart is, remember that you're watching a lesson being planted, a lesson that will outlive the teacher, outlive the girl's childhood, and outlive the longest winter the world has ever known. The Hound thought he was asking for death. He was actually giving Arya the key to saving everything.